Amsterdam Kitchen. Join us live on Saturday mornings
from 10 till 12
on Broadcast Amsterdam.
Or catch up later.
It's all online.
So, welcome to the Amsterdam Kitchen, Zoe Brownstone of the brand new Sammies Ice.
Thank you. This is so exciting.
Yeah, welcome to Broadcast Amsterdam Radio as well. So for those listening, Sammies Ice, for me, it's how it sounds, but tell us what the product is.
So the product is simple. It's an ice cream sandwich. I grew up eating like the classic American ice cream sandwich, which was like vanilla ice cream with like a really soft, chewy, gooey, super thin wafer on either sides. It's a little slim rectangle. And yeah, it was sort of like not quite what you would get from an ice cream truck, but what you would get from a convenience store when you only had 50 cents in your pocket. And I noticed that didn't exist here. And I had talked about it with a couple other expats, my sister and my friend Maddie, both from Toronto. And we were like, that's a little strange that it's not here in any form. Because in Toronto, where I'm from, there's now a shop called Bang Bang Ice Cream, which does like a super gourmet ice cream sandwich. So they make their cookies fresh. They're these big round cookies. They do their own ice cream in-house. It's like quite the experience. So I thought maybe the Dutch would be into that, I guess. Like I sort of saw an opportunity for something that's kind of foolproof. Like I'm learning that ice cream is sort of recession proof. It's a small delight that you can get, and it's not a big investment in happiness.
Lucky for you.
Yeah.
with the corona crisis.
Yeah, indeed.
And tell us a bit about yourself, how long you've lived in the Netherlands and what brought you here.
I have been living in the Netherlands. It's actually a year today. I moved on my birthday last year to live in the Netherlands. My sister lives in Amsterdam with her husband and very tiny, adorable, perfect little baby, Max. And I moved here last May. I was living in Haarlem with my partner, my Dutch partner, and I moved to Amsterdam in January, and I've been like finding my way in the city ever since. It's been a very weird year, like to say the least.
It's a lot. New baby in the family, Dutch partner
came and went, and now I am in the city. And like, you've spoken to Heather, and I found Flo's in November, just as it had opened, and I didn't realize that there was a demand for like North American food in the Netherlands. Like I didn't know that was a niche at all. And I saw what she was doing with bagels and was so inspired by her work and the community she was building around the shop, and really fell in love with that space. And that definitely started planting little seeds in my brain. So
for those listening, Flo's Appetizing, started up a bagel store, I don't know, before Christmas. It's 2019.
She'd been doing pop-ups for a while, and then they finally opened their doors, I believe, like early mid-October. I came in November, so just a few weeks later. Great. Yeah, it was awesome.
So you saw a kind of gap in the market. Would you say that you have a background in food or catering, though?
I wouldn't say I have a background in food. I have a background in coffee, actually. I managed a coffee shop I should say cafe. That word is different here. Yeah. I helped build and manage a cafe in Toronto for several years and have always kind of had one foot in that world. And with coffee, you get to see a lot of treats and desserts as well. And baking is a huge part of my life, not professionally, but definitely therapeutically. And I sort of was just really hungry for this product. I was like, I want to eat this. Like, I want to make this and eat it and see if I can do 10 of them, see how that could work. And then that quickly turned into a lot more.
Gradually scaling up.
Yeah.
So what was that first steps into, going from home baking this product that you've missed, maybe making a little bit extra for parties or something like that, to then making it a business? And I mean, how many do you make, say, on a weekend?
It's a great question. It was a very short window. I remember doing, I think the first batch I did like 5 of them, one for me and a few for the people that I share a house with. And very quickly the problems sort of were evident. So the ice cream I was using was like this cheap Lidl ice cream that tasted kind of great, but I knew there was sort of an element missing. Like if I, was sort of fantasizing at the time still, but if I wanted to take it somewhere, I would want everything done locally, either by me or by someone in Amsterdam. So that was sort of my first hurdle. And then the second hurdle, of course, was ice cream melts really fast. And I don't know if you know this, but it really does get everywhere really quick. So finding a way to make them, physically make them and get them back into the freezer before they fell apart was and still is a big challenge. And going from doing 5 in my home kitchen to 100 at Flo's was a huge jump. And although the baking part comes pretty easily to me, the sort of mechanics around finding space, finding appropriate storage techniques, because you have to think you want to keep its shape, but you also need it to not be exposed to the freezer too much. Otherwise it gets freezer burned. These problems started kind of yelling at me quite quickly.
At first, when you're mainly making a few, you use your home kitchen. Yeah. Are you still doing it from your house?
Not anymore. No, I'm doing. I'm experimenting at home, so I'm making some simple syrups and different flavor pairings I want to bring to my ice cream maker. But I do the bulk of production out of the Flo's kitchen because there's more freezer storage, and the oven is thankfully bigger than your average Dutch oven, which fits one tiny sheet pan into it. So very grateful for that.
Well, that's interesting. So you have to negotiate and plan with them because I imagine they're pretty busy baking bagels.
Extremely busy baking bagels. We're really lucky. We're a pretty small shop, and we do the bulk of our prep sort of throughout the day, but in the evening time we're kind of done because the bagels are proofing in the fridge, so there is space in the kitchen to use for other things. And when I got the idea originally, I did see it as building a partnership with Flo's. I think the product matches really well with what we're already doing in the shop and definitely caters to our community of not just expats, but there is a huge sort of group of Americans, Brits, Canadians that come by the shop. So they recognize the product and they've seemed to be pretty keen for it as well.
Is this fair to say that this is a side hustle? Do you do something else?
Pretty much everything I do is a side hustle. I'm a side hustler. I'm a comedian. That's my passion. And in order to make time for that and space for that, I do a few things to keep the lights on. Sammie's, I hope, can be that. As I'm sure you know, food endeavors don't always make a lot of money. So it started as a passion project, and I hope it can continue this summer to be, a new part of the Amsterdam dessert circuit. I think it's such a simple joy that I'm happy to continue making for now. I don't know, as long as I can find freezer space. If anyone has a freezer that I can borrow, please email me.
So one big question I have, who is Sammie?
Sammie is the ice cream sandwich. Sammie isn't a person. It's kind of, one of the first conversations I had with my sister about this was, we were just referring to the product as a Sammie. And for me, it's that's the easiest way to sell something is to kind of pigeonhole that name. Poutine for me has there's such a visual cue for that word, and Sammie kind of has the same thing. Not necessarily an ice cream sandwich, but if I say Sammie, I'm picturing a droopy PB&J or a Nutella banana sandwich. There's something really childlike and fun about that, and it's also not serious. This is ice cream and cookies. I want it to be as laid back as possible. We've had a very stressful year so far. I really just wanted it to be fun and easy.
Oh, it totally is that. And the nice, with the logo, it's got a little face and tongue sticking out. It is a cheeky, characteristic name. Cool. Oh, that's it then.
Were you expecting it to be a long lost boyfriend?
Well, I heard the story of Flo's and, Flo being her grandma. I thought, maybe there's
no such luck.
Completely different story.
Yeah.
Let's see. For now, we've got lots of questions about how you set up the business, how you go about that. But for now, I'm just going to ask you all this work that you're doing in the kitchen. Do you listen to music at the time?
100%. I have to. Either music or a podcast. But typically when I'm baking, I really got to pump up the jams. And lately it's been I could say a good blend. Lizzo for sure. But I like to kick it old school. Sly and the Family Stone, Donny Hathaway, Jackson 5, as taboo as that might be for some people. I still love the oldies. Even like a little bit of ABBA if I'm feeling freaky, you know, because baking is like, it's labor intensive. You're sweating over an oven. I'm not a mathematician whiz, and there's a lot of math involved with doing these cookies because I do them in sheets, right? And then you divide each sheet into a certain amount of cookies. And so there is like a bit of calculation involved. So I like to keep the music a little like light and fun, funky. So.
Amsterdam Kitchen. So you're back with the Amsterdam Kitchen, and we're with Zoe Brownstone of the brand new Sammies Ice. So we've been talking a bit about the internationals, and probably they've been missing a product like yours, the ice cream sandwich. But how have you seen a kind of local Dutch reaction, a kind of discovery of this treat, and how is that different?
I mean, I wouldn't say like hugely different. I was trying to be very conscious of the Dutch community and how they might respond to this product. And like on a practical level, I wanted to make it easy to eat and avoid the nightmare of sticky fingers. So that was a bit of a challenge in terms of packaging. I played around with a lot of different ideas of paper, cardboard, boxes, wrappers. In the end, we're pretty new still, but I settled on a combination of sandwich paper and napkin, so you can wipe your hands, but it doesn't absorb all the ice cream. It's ice cream. It's going to get messy. That's sort of part of the fun. But at the same time, in Corona era eating and socializing, you need a product where you can take it to go and go for a walk and not need to be near a sink, I guess. So still trying to kind of work that out in my brain, but I wanted also to make something for the Dutch folk who love flows that wouldn't make them feel like, oh, this is another thing that we don't have, or like this is another thing that an outsider is bringing here. It's like, no. I'm taking something that comes from my home that I had as a kid, but I'm kind of reinventing it. Like we're doing a higher end ice cream. We're doing fresh baked homemade cookies that you wouldn't normally get in like a out of the freezer Sammie back home. So I'm not reinventing the wheel, but just like readjusting the wheel maybe.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, instead of making your own ice cream, which would be a huge other task.
Oh, insane. Crazy. Like, no chance.
One step at a time. You're using a local Dutch, even Amsterdam producer, which makes it really quite a Dutch product.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I was very keen to do that. I met with Michelle I think even just a month ago. It's very recent. Michelle from De IJsmakerij. Great vibes. He knows a ton about food. He's a chef and has a beautiful facility with his own gorgeous ice cream machines. Like, I don't really know a lot about ice cream making, but these machines are stunning pieces. They're like from the 50s and just a dream for anybody who's a connoisseur of that kind of machinery. And he instantly took to the idea, and we were already like spitballing flavor combinations and ideas. But he was really helpful to sort of keep me grounded and say, like, I know a lot about ice cream, and I know especially like people like the basics, people like the classics, don't go too crazy too fast. Because like already from the beginning, I was thinking like, I want to do a birthday cookie with a champagne ice cream and call it a drunk birthday sandwich. Like I wanted to really go for the moon. And he, very kindly and generously was like, let's go simple first. Let's start with chocolate maybe and see how far we can go with that. And I was like, thanks for the tip, Michelle. It's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, because you started off, you've probably tried all sorts of things, but let's say with the most recent pop-up at Flo's, 3 flavours, is that right in thinking chocolate with rosemary, peanut butter and strawberry, and a vanilla? Yeah. Your
basics. Milk and cookies, sort of, I know people say this a lot, it sounds very cheesy, but it really just fell in my lap. I originally wanted to do like my take on the original ice cream Sammie, which is that vanilla ice cream with a double chocolate wafer. But then I thought that somebody already perfected that. I don't need to touch it. And my sister and I always joke that it's like a bit of a challenge to find a fantastic chocolate chip cookie in Amsterdam. A couple cafes are doing them now. I think Lot 61 has a pretty good one.
Yeah.
But I thought, why not try and do my version of that and put it with some awesome ice cream. The triple chocolate, I really just wanted chocolate, like the most chocolate you could get into your hand. And thankfully, Michelle has such a great ice cream that is really subtly flavored with that salt and rosemary. It is not overwhelming. A few people didn't get it, and then they told me, they're like, I don't really like rosemary. I think that sounds kind of weird. And then I sort of pushed it on them, and they tried it, and they're like, it doesn't taste like rosemary. It's just like a really aromatic chocolate with a Nutella brownie. So you've got a little bit of nuttiness on the end and a good chew. And the PB&J was sort of the start of it all. Like, that was the first Sammie I imagined, because I was like, I want to eat that. Like, I just really want that right now. I don't even like strawberry ice cream, but with a peanut butter cookie, it's like perfect. So tasty.
It's very nice. And it's got that ripple through it. It's like, it's different.
Yeah, it's different. And I will say, like, the majority of my Dutch customers didn't want to try the PB&J and I get that. That's because the peanut butter and jelly sandwich isn't really a thing here. Like, kids growing up don't eat that regularly. It's not as big as like the hagelslag sort of vibe.
It's weird, isn't it? Because they love their peanut butter, their pindakaas.
Yeah.
But it's very much on its own and savory. Keep it savory.
Yeah, keep it savory. Putting jam on it is like weird and making it a dessert, but they'll put hagelslag on it, which is confusing to me. I'm really just here to tear down all the norms of Dutch cuisine. So it was born out of a craving. I was like, I really want to eat this right now. So how can I do that? And then very quickly after that came recipe picking, which for me was like, I want to do this at the lowest possible cost with the least amount of fuss. And so the first cookie I did was the 3-ingredient peanut butter cookie, and keep it simple. Like, you don't need a lot to make a peanut butter cookie. So why add things when you don't have to?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think Amsterdam's thanking you now. And all the Dutchies have discovered these great flavours. Some specials.
Specials, like flavors? I don't want to give away all my secrets. I am working on, I really want to bring matcha into the mix. I love like green tea ice cream and matcha. I've also found a recipe on NYT Cooking for a miso peanut butter cookie that I'm really eager to try. So miso peanut butter with green matcha, I think would be delicious. I definitely want to do like a lemon drop. So like a shortbread cookie with like a lemon meringue sorbet inside. Michelle does, lots of dairy-free options, and I'm definitely trying to get my head around a vegan Sammie. I
think you're going to have to do a vegan one, Zoe, because it's all the trend, and then there'll be an even bigger stampede.
Yeah, I mean, I've already had a handful of requests for vegan, gluten-free options, so trying to find a way of doing that appeals to everyone, because working at Flows, we have vegan options there as well. And for me anyways, it's always been a part of the process. This is another option, but it's an option for everyone. We want it's gotta be delicious. It's gotta be like finger licking good. And the same as with Sammie's for sure. Yeah.
So that you don't call it like a vegan ice cream. It'll just be a normal flavor and then, brackets like vegans can eat this.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there's, and Michelle uses a lot of like oat milk bases for his dairy-free ice cream, which I love. So maybe we'll do like an oatmeal chocolate chip Sammie. Who knows?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Now my co-host Geli has some questions for you. She's always into the experimental process and tasting. She says you must have had quite some nice time testing all the flavors. And how was that process? I guess you got family and friends involved.
No, I did all the tasting and sampling myself, of course. Come on, Geli. That's I've put on a lot of weight. No. Like I said, I got into this because I was really having a craving, and now that has evolved into what I like to think of as like smart tasting. So I'm not looking for the same things as I was before. I'm trying to be more sensitive to salt and to acid and sweet on a different level than just like, is it tasty? Like I need more information than that. We are doing really basic flavor combinations right now, which I love and people are really receptive to. But in the next few months, I definitely want to roll out different things, not crazy ideas, but not what you would normally expect from even your great regular ice cream shop. And in order to do that, I really want to be able to cultivate a menu where you can totally rely on the triple chocolate. Like, you're going to get everything you need from that. But if you want to do something crazy, like try this pistachio and ganache, you know what I mean? And see where that takes you. As wild as that sounds.
So obviously this is to eat there at Flo's. What if people really want to maybe have a stock for it in their freezer?
They freeze pretty well. I would say they actually get better with a little bit of freezing. The goal is to make the cookies 3 days before they get sold. So they have 1 day of rest, and then they have one overnight of rest, and then one overnight in the freezer, like assembled with the ice cream. So the flavors can meld together, and they're the exact same temp when I sell them to the customer. But even after that, you put them in Tupperware. They last. The ice cream on its own lasts for 3 months, and the cookies, like, you don't want them to be in there maybe longer than a few weeks because they will get freezer burned eventually. But they're pretty good for a good little while.
Podcast Amsterdam.
Although you use a lot of equipment at Flo's, have you had to invest in any equipment, any new stuff now?
So part of the scaling up process was finding a way to keep the desired shape of the Sammie, but being able to make more than 5 at a time. And what I've discovered so far, which I'm sure will evolve soon, was finding a flat or a straight edge sheet pan where I could do at least 6 and hopefully 8 to 10 sandwiches, which would be double that amount of cookies. Because you make them and then you layer them. And so I know, I had the same revelation. I was like, wait, but how does that wait? Oh, right. Math. Again, math, my biggest struggle. So finding that kind of equipment has been challenging. Dijkelman is now my favorite store in Amsterdam. I think they're pretty sick of me. The internet has been sort of handy, but in Corona times, like, it's hard to get things shipped on time, and you need to move fast. It's summertime. We want to get ice cream out now. So finding, in terms of equipment, the sheet pans and finding molds that make sense for this. Also, whatever I make the cookies in, the ice cream also has to go in because you want it all to be the same size to cut the Sammies out of. So that's been a bit of a jigsaw puzzle.
Have you done much planning, budgeting on things like, do you have a particular kind of benchmark or level that you want to reach? Yeah, where are you going to go with this?
Great question. I mean, the sky's the limit. I think that from our first few events, people love the product. It's easy to get into people's hands. It's very shareable in terms of like marketing and social. What I would love to have happen is for it to first become a product at Flo's. So you can always get an egg and cheese bagel. You can always get a Sammie. That's kind of what I would like to see happen. Beyond that, there are hopefully going to be outdoor events in Amsterdam this summer. I'm sure to be slow to start, but it's a pretty food forward city. And I think, wherever you can imagine ice cream, I think Sammie's can fit right in. I think especially right now, people want something wrapped in paper that they can take to go and eat on their bike or eat in a park. I do see it becoming like a new little piece of the ice cream pocket here. People love ice cream in this city. Holy mackerel. And I think that this could just be the next level up from that. In terms of goals, I definitely want to see it at a few markets. The Ice Macra is available at the Noorder Market starting pretty soon, which is going to be great, and we might be there with him.
How does that work? Do you have to rent a freezer?
Yeah, you'd have to get some of the markets I know have like part of your rental fee. You can purchase a part of the generator pack that they have. Like, obviously not all stands need it, but definitely ice cream stalls need some sort of power source. So yeah, I would have to do that. Or the other option, if it really takes off, would be to invest in some sort of like a fridge bike. You see them like cycling around some of the parks now, and it's easy enough to just like ring that little bell and see the kids come screaming at you.
I know, it's a new take on the ice cream van that we had in the UK, a fridge bike.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of putting music or a bell on it.
Oh yeah,
and
got to.
People audio branding.
Right? It's not as big of a thing here. Like, the ice cream truck is sacred back home, and it doesn't seem to really exist here.
No. So people know that you're there. Oh, that's wonderful. So how does it work? The ice macarai, you have a bulk delivery of ice cream. It doesn't come to your house. Your neighbours might be like, how much ice cream is this lady eating? I guess it goes to Flo's.
Yeah, it goes to Flo's. Michelle pours the ice cream into the pans that I do the cookies in. Not the same pans, but same size pans. And I immediately put them in the freezer before taking like a few licks of the plan. Just kidding. Scoop some out. And yeah, the process for assembly has been very interesting. Originally, my plan was for the Sammies to be circular because that's just what I pictured. But I wanted to really do like a round cookie shape. But that quickly evolved because my greatest pet peeve is food waste and I can't handle that. So square sheet pans, square cookies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's probably quicker as well, isn't it? Yeah,
way quicker. I mean, in terms of assembly, everything gets layered in and then it's just like chop, chop, chop and then throw them in the freezer as soon as you possibly can.
And storage, because you can line them up. How do you work out from an economic point of view how to price up your product?
It's a great question. I originally started out, I worked backwards, which is not what you're supposed to do. But I was like, how much would I want to spend on this? Like going to a shop. And I used models I'd seen previously, like back home in Toronto, what the price point is for sort of bougie ice cream was and what people were willing to pay. And I settled on a number and I was like, okay, how can I make that happen? I looked at my food costs, which up until that point had been coming from, the Albert Heijn or the Dirk, which is way more expensive than a wholesaler food supplier. And my numbers were terrible and I was really freaked out. And then I took a look at a wholesale food supplier like the one that Flo's uses. And I thought, well, if I'm going to eventually scale, which is the goal, I should be working with more realistic numbers. And from there, I was able to cost out how much is it going to cost. So I pay one price for the ice cream, but then how much is it going to cost to make one single cookie? And then times that by 2. And that's the price of a Sammie minus the ice cream. I did all of my food costing first, which was a little scary. And then I did sort of a rough sketch of what I've put in labor-wise, marketing, and my hard goods costs. And I am hoping to make a profit at some point. Of course not. I'm not there yet. And I'm not surprised by that at all. But I'm close to breaking even, which I think is really exciting. Like I said, this is a passion project. Yeah. I'm happy just to like put smiles on people's faces for the time being. And if I can do that without bankrupting myself, that'd be great.
Podcast Amsterdam.
And Gilly's also curious, what have been your biggest challenges so far?
I would say freezer space is definitely my greatest hurdle. It's incredible how fast ice cream melts. I know how silly that sounds, but I make sure, before I assemble everything, the cookies are fully chilled. The pans that they're going into have also been chilled. Like I really try to cool everything down so there's like little to no melting. And then I work really fast. That's kind of the key, is you really have to get it back in the freezer quickly. But no matter how fast I work, you're still going to get like a small amount of melt, and that refreezes in the form that you put it into the container. So if it's not perfectly set in and perfectly like lined up with the other Sammies, you get a lot of non-conformity, which is fine. I'm not in this to make a product that each Sammie looks the exact same. I'm not interested in that, but I do want consistency, and I know customers want consistency. So I'm trying to like get that going a bit more.
If you get 2 kids in and one's bigger than the other,
you're done.
Soon going to be problems.
There's going to be a fire. Like someone will break down your door. You don't want kids hopped up on sugar upset. That's a bad combo.
Okay, so listeners, you heard it here. If you've got some freezer space and you're kind of in the Oud West area, Zoe could do with your help.
Call me, please.
There might be an ice cream sandwich in it for you. And you say that it hasn't been too much of difficulty getting the word out. A lot of other people listening might be interested in starting up a food business. Generally tend to have small budgets. Have you spent any money on marketing, or how did that work?
Not a dime. I've done it all myself, and I'm lucky I do have a marketing background, and I'm a graphic designer, so I did all the logos and all the visual branding was me, which is just super convenient. But I would say like having a knack for it is handy, and being able to navigate Facebook and Instagram is super handy. But I think more important is, you know, if you're going to start a little food startup, why and to who are you serving? I had people wanting this before I even made it, because I was talking about it with my friends and my family and customers at Flows, and sort of building an interest, engaging an interest. You know, you see a gap in the market, and there isn't a gap in the market for ice cream sandwiches, but there is a gap for simple pleasures right now, and ways for parents to make their kids happy, and something to do, you know, like going out and getting an ice cream Sammy. That's an activity. That's an hour of your day that you don't have to sit at home reading the news. So I saw that as an opportunity to, I don't know, make a little joy happen. So I would definitely recommend, if you've kind of got that kicking around, there are a few pretty awesome little projects happening in the city. See who else you like. I mean, there's Charlie's Dumplings. Have you heard about them? They're in Amsterdam. She does dumplings out of her home. I tried them. They're delicious, not too expensive. Simple pleasure. I mean, it was the first time I'd eaten food from someone else's kitchen in like a month and a half, and it was great. Look for the need, look for the desire, and then find your people. I found some of my community on the Flows social media and like reached out to them and saw if they would be interested in this, and, you know, little baby steps here and there. And now we're off and running.
It's nice to have a kind of positive story because, you know, with the coronavirus hitting, you know, with the lockdown coming in March and the timeline of your launch being, you know, I guess that's in May. Yeah. After a few months of lockdown, you've come into Amsterdam's lives to brighten it up and with something special to eat because, yeah, we're all a little bit low. And this is a nice way, isn't it, to bring a bit of joy?
Totally. Like, I came to Amsterdam because I wanted to make people laugh because I'm a comic and wasn't allowed to do that anymore. So I was like, what's the next best thing I could do? Ice cream sandwiches. Bam.
I totally get that. Well, thank you for coming on to the Amsterdam Kitchen and sharing your story and the excitement. I bet lots of people listening are rushing out the door.
I hope so. Thank you for having me. This is such a treat.
Well, we'll stay updated as well because we're sure there'll be many more flavours to announce.
Yeah.
Where can people keep track of what you're doing?
Best place to do that is on Instagram if you have it. The handle is at Sammies_ice, and we're on Facebook at Sammies Ice. Also follow Flows because Flows is awesome. At Flows appetizing_Amsterdam or AMS, excuse me. Also on Facebook. And I would say come to the shop. If you're in Amsterdam, Flows is now open Thursday through Sunday. We're going to be opening up Wednesday starting June 1st. Hopefully our terrace will be open. We've got sandwiches. I'm there a lot of the time. So if you have questions, if you want to know more about Sammie, I love talking about ice cream. Ask me anything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amsterdam Kitchen. Join us live on Saturday mornings
From 10 till 12.
on Broadcast Amsterdam.
Or catch up later.
It's all online.
Broadcast Amsterdam, your local radio station, 24/7 and on demand. Or on broadcastamsterdam.nl.